new thing that I started called IIT Startups is I want to make as many IITians as rich as possible. You know why? Because rich people donate more than regular people. So if these rich guys donate back to the IITs, they will be, in a way, repaying the taxpayers of India for the massively subsidized education that we had. At least in our time, I know I paid 25 rupees a month for tuition. Count that's what, how much, 50 cents or less than that. So I'm just saying that we are trying to, what has happened over these past few years is that, I'll go back a little historically. If you look at the year 2002 and before, at least in America, an IIT Madras guy would not talk to an IIT Bombay guy, who in turn wouldn't talk to an IIT Kharagpur guy. We had several alumni associations all in silos. We did not mix with each other. Then in 2001, the dot-com bust took place. You must have heard about that. And when that happened, the market collapsed. And when the market collapsed, we all needed to help each other. I want to reach out to somebody in IIT Delhi. Say, you're not supposed to talk to those low-lifers, But we said, you know what, this is the need of the hour. So a bunch of us presidents of IIT, I was an IIT Madras Bay Area president at that time, and the Bombay guy and the Kharagpur and all these IITs, we met and we said, we need to do this, get our guys together. So I said, look, here's what we can do. We can have an event which will bring all of us together, and it will be a major brand building event where what will stand out is the IIT name, not by campus. It's IIT, not IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, none of that. So we want to do that first and foremost. So our goal is branding. You don't require that branding in India because obviously IIT is the best. But in a foreign country, we are competing against Stanford and Harvard and Berkeley and all these guys. We need to stand out in front of them. Okay, so branding is what made us so famous. Before that, IIT, you must be one of those labor arbitrage programmers, cheap programmers coming from India, programming. They did not know that IITians are entrepreneurs and we have been generating hundreds and thousands of jobs in America, setting up famous companies. They were not aware of that. And all of a sudden, 60 Minutes, which is considered the most critical program, they covered us. And we were overnight a household name. They said, wow, IIT, and they would catch any Indian. They'll say, are you from IIT? And that fellow will lie. He'll say, yeah, I am. He's not from IIT. He's from BITS Pilani or he's from some other insignificant institute. And of course, I am IIT. Everybody wanted to cash in on because, the local Americans would think anybody who's Indian is an IIT guy, which we needed to correct. Of course, that didn't get corrected entirely. But so that was the starting point. Since then, IITians have got a lot of traction, the startups and all, because I know before that, I remember Kanwal Rekhi telling me, when I started Exceland, I had to get a white guy on my team to be credible to a VC. All the pioneers, I'm talking about the fellows like Vinod Khosla who set up Sun Microsystems or Desh Deshpande of IIT Madras and Suhas Patel and all these guys, they had a very rough journey to build a name which they really were not able to cash in on. But we cashed in on it. When we put up the 60 Minutes program, the subsequent generations, after 2003, there's been a wave of financing. Okay? And we've come a long way. Today, IITians are the 4th largest unicorn builders in the world. What happened? Oops, sorry. Okay? That's the ranking. Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, and IIT. And then MIT is behind us, by the way. MIT is behind us. So, when my team heard that, by the way, this is not the only source. From multiple sources, we got this information that Stanford was first and we were 4th. The The Harvard and MIT and Berkeley, those were interchangeable. We saw those numbers shifting with different surveys, but 1 and 4 were constant. So my team, which I put up for this IIT Startups, they all said, wow. And I said, what the heck? My reaction was different because I said, look, IITians are the smartest people on the face of this planet. So how the hell are we fourth? We shouldn't be fourth. Unless Jesus came and told, like he told Lazarus, Lazarus come forth. He told IIT come forth, so we got stuck at fourth. No, that shouldn't be the case. I was kidding. But I'm just saying, we need to get that number up. Okay, so I retired back in 2016. I had some health problems and I went through an open heart surgery in 2017 beginning. And that's something I recommend to all of you when you cross the age of 60, do an open heart surgery. Because I tell you, it's like taking an old car and reboring the engines. You come out with explosive energy. In 3 months after my surgery, I could have eaten bricks, I mean, that's how powerful I was. By the way, in case you guys don't know, I was a heavyweight boxing champion out here. I was also the national and Asian champion in sculling. Okay. If you go to the boat club, as you enter the boat club, on the right-hand side, there's a board, Challenge Skull Winners. You'll see my name there 5 times. So anyway, I'm just saying that I did this survey at that point in time, and I said, I spoke to a number of VCs. I said, I've been sending you people, referrals. Somebody say, hey, can you introduce me to this VC or that VC? I said, sure. I mean, I'm fairly well connected in the Valley, so I would connect these guys. So they said, Monishi, you sent us this guy, out of respect for you, we met the guys, but some were good, but there were major shortcomings. So I said, tell me, what are the shortcomings? So they said, an IITian is second to nobody in technology. But when it comes to the business understanding of how you do a startup, they're sadly lacking in a number of areas. So I said, okay. We started culling those areas and we said, okay, we will come down to where exactly the IITian is misfiring. So a typical IITian startup is a deep techie. So he builds a solution around a tool. I talk to these IIT guys, oh, I'm building an AI solution. So you're building an AI solution? AI is a tool, it's not a solution. Tell me you're building a healthcare solution or a telecom or a BFSI. Those are the solution need end, not the tool. Don't say I'm doing an IoT solution. That's only a means to an end, which is something as a terminology all of you need to be clear about. So we organized a series of workshops, okay, and if you go to our website, okay, I'll go here. Okay, now if you go to our website, what we did was every single workshop that we conducted, and our panelists were extremely successful serial entrepreneurs, IITians. We had them on the panel. And they did this thing now because I know I can't get them repeatedly. I video recorded the whole thing and it's up on the library section here. By the way, this is accessible to anybody. Any of you can sit back at your easy time, at leisure. You can see, because each of these videos is about an hour and a half long. Okay, so that's our inauguration event with Vinod Khoshla and okay, that's Umang Gupta and Vinod Khoshla. Then this is the workshop number 1, which is concept to business plan. Workshop number 2, fundraising, the pitch. This is by Berkeley professor. He's really a really good speaker. He's a Pakistani guy, but a super speaker. Then he took a session on term sheet negotiation. Then we had from product design to build, Then the next one was on business development and marketing. Then exit strategies. Now 90% of IIT companies go the acquisition route. They don't go IPO is a pretty stiff route. I mean, although there's a lot of ego that you gain out of an IPO, but it's a very difficult path to go up. And then we did one on legal and compliance. There's another one which we did much later. It's by a pitch coach. You know what a pitch coach is? Somebody who teaches you how to pitch. So a fellow called Tim Taylor came and did a course on that. That's supposed to be up on the website, but it's not there as yet. Okay, can you come? So all of this, if you are in the same mold as your brethren in Silicon Valley, please go through this, because those typical nerdy engineers, they hate raising money. They hate marketing. But let me tell you something, you want to do a startup, you're going to go nowhere without money and marketing. So that's an essential, but you've got to understand the mindset of the guys. So those fellows build solutions, and then they go looking for a problem. Now, what can I solve with this solution? Now, it's very rare that you build a technology where the technology itself becomes the killer app. But mostly, you have to identify the need, the market, the size, the competition, and do the necessary validations on that. And then you come to, hey, this is what I require. But just suppose I'm a guy who's specialized in machine learning. What will I naturally do? I'll build a machine learning kind of a solution, and then I'm going to see where am I going to put it in. Whereas if I did it the other way around, that I identify a need and then I come down, then I say, oh darn, I don't require machine learning in this, I need something else. And that's not my core skill. So is the guy going to go for it? He's not going to go for it because that's not his comfort zone. In fact, 3 days ago, I was at IIM Calcutta. I met the CEO of their innovation center. So he wanted my advice on what we should do for IIM. I said, don't compare, because your guys are business guys who are looking for technology people to support. And my guys are exactly the opposite. They are technology guys who need people who understand the business end of things unless they can pick it up. And the other fact, he said, we got a lot of IITians too. We got, a lot of people who go for their MBAs are former engineers and they are IITians. I said, let me tell you something. Once a deep techie, nerdy guy, once he dabbles into management, he's lost as an engineer. He's no more an engineer like me. I came out with governor's medal here. It's pretty decent in my rankings. But you know what? Once I went into the management stream, I kind of chose what's my first love, I mean, I know I started a company years ago in India. I had a lot of attrition. So I said, what the heck? I used to write Fortran programs. I can lick the system. And I did lick the system. But after a while, I asked myself, am I enjoying this? I certainly wasn't enjoying it because I'm a people person. I like to get out there, meet people, market, sell. I'll get under anybody's skin. That's my forte. So you really need to understand what is your aptitude, what is your attitude, and what's the price you're willing to pay to reach a certain altitude. So this combo is something we are asking our guys to do, why we set up this thing. Again, goal is make him rich. Okay. Now, in the process of, what should I say? I mean, doing this, we tell all the guys, in our workshops, we are having an average attendance of 100 plus on every single workshop. So I said, why do you guys need to know this much? I mean, they said, okay, partly it's because, pretty much like the research park, when, startups meet other startups, you get energized. Oh, wow, So when we get all these IIT guys together, they feel that's, I'm feeling wow and all that sort of thing. We want to bring that wow factor in, we want them to get excited, So I'm looking for incubation space because, right now what these guys do, they operate out of Starbucks or some coffee shop or something like that. And then, it's been a huddle exercise, but I'm trying to get them an incubation center, which I should be able to get in a few months. So that is the journey. We set them through this thing. And after the 3 months workshop, what we do is the startups who qualify for our cohorts. Now, as I'm saying, workshops are for any and everybody, but once you want to get a mentor, you must be a C corporation. You must have the company. You can't be doing a day job. You can't be saying that, hey, you know what, I'm during the daytime I'm going to go and do my work at Cisco, and then I'm going to come back in the evening and do that. We will not take him in because we are dedicating to him a very expensive resource, a person who is probably a multimillionaire because he's a successful entrepreneur, and he, because of his loyalty to IIT, say, you know what, I'll do this for my fellow IITian, free of charge, and everybody's all pro bono. Nobody's charging a dime for this. Okay, they're willing to do that, but for that we have to set certain conditions. Also, we IIT Startups, I mean, fortunately we got a good ground run up, in terms of the fact that background material, when we tell people, oh, we founded a company, okay, IIT Startups didn't, but historically IITians did it, and we are cashing in on that name. And okay, we also I take a bit of credit for that, because that 60 Minutes program was partly instrumental in so many of these guys getting funding and succeeding, but net is we, as we go forward, we want to make sure that we build a reputation. So what happened in cohort number 1, we had 26 startups. Only 12 were cleared. So fortunately, I was not on the selection committee, so they couldn't badmouth me, but they would come to me, the granddaddy out there. They come and oh, Monishi, they left me out. I worked so hard, I said, yeah, you need to talk to the judges. But I said, you do have to understand that to maintain quality, it's like the IIT joint entrance exam. If you're half a mark below, you don't make it. It's just that quarter of a mark or half a mark that differentiates between your getting into IIT or not getting into IIT. Okay, so I just said, we want to be the Y Combinators of the non-profit world. The Y Combinators is the most famous for-profit accelerator, and we want to be similar in the non-profit area. So right now, there is sort of peer pressure, so I am at the wide end. Where is that writing? This pen. So I'm at the wide end of the funnel. These 11,000 IITian guys, and I'm going there and pumping them. Hey, come on, you gotta do this. At the same time, when these guys are, oh yeah, I'm excited, I'm going to do it. Whether he has to take his wife's permission or his dog's permission or whatever. I mean, he does that, and he comes, I'm ready for it, I send them to the funnel, which is looked after by a IIT guy called Spinnin. He gets this, okay? He gets this much from that. And then he has got to, after mentoring, he's got to bring that funnel down so that ultimately only so many guys go through. Because we want the best quality, So the guys come and cry their heart out. Now I feel bad because of the fact that I used to run the PAN IIT Alumni Association, and I had a lot of close relationship with a lot of these guys. But your JE is your JE, no matter what. I mean, you can't sort of slip in. I think these days they have some special quotas and all that. We didn't have any quota in our time. It was just pure merit. You made it or you didn't. But I'll have to concede to all of you. Are all of you guys IIT guys? Huh? Anybody not an IIT guy? Okay, doesn't matter. So, I'm just saying today, in spite of my scholastic record then, if I had to sit for the exam today, I would make it into IIT. And I refused to go through 3 years of whatever they went, pre-training and all that. We didn't do that. I mean, I wanted to join the army. My father said, you'll be very poor like me, because my father was an army officer. So he said, if you want to make some money, become an engineer, safety, make some money, maybe you make some money. So that's how I came to IIT. Otherwise, I told him some years later, I said, you know what, had you let me join the army, I could have become president of India by now. He said, how would you have become president? I said, look, for sure I would have become chief of staff. And after chief of staff, I would have done coup d'etat, and that's it, So anyway, that being what it is, we live with what we moved on with. So as I'm saying, the startup fever is raging. As as I keep pumping the wide end of the funnel, I've been sending more and more. We had on our inauguration day, we had 200 startups that turned out at our inauguration event. That number is going up. I mean, we'll go up to 300 also, but this guy is complaining. You say, what are you doing? I can't handle that, because per demo day, we like to ideally present 12 companies, okay? Because when you give an elevator pitch of 4 minutes and you see for 1 hour or longer the VCs are sitting there, and it gets tiring. And then what happens, your view of the last few guys who presented is diluted. You kind of think, you want to get it over with. Come on, get it over with, And to add to that misery, this time what happened was there's a new consul general who's come to San Francisco. So he said, Monishi, I want to understand. I believe there are so many IITs in Silicon Valley. I want to get this thing. I said, come along for our demo day. You'll not only see IITians, but you'll also see what the whole ecosystem of startups are all about. So he came there. He said, can I have a small pitch? I'm going to talk. I said, 5 minutes? He said, okay. So I got some information from Chris Gopalakrishnan and from Tamaswati Ghosh, and I preceded the whole thing and I gave it to him. 5 minutes. He took 20 minutes. So that pushed the whole timing back, So I'm just saying that we tried to put 12 at a time. This time we've put 14 because there was too much pressure. But who are you going to leave out? Because all of them were very good. But this first 2 cohorts were early stage. Now cohort number 3, we are inviting applications, but this time we are separating advanced stage guys or growth stage guys and early stage, because the VCs have said, this early stage thing is more a game for angels. We are looking for advanced guys, So we said okay, and also from the other side, the guys who were at advanced stage, they thought they knew it all, but at the same time, we were drooling at the fact that we could pull in so many VCs, so many angels, so many corporate investors. I mean, our marketing team had tremendous clout. I mean, we are all over the place, over there. And, again, banking on the IIT name. So we were able to pull this. So those advanced stage guys says, can we be on the next cohort? I said, only if you go through our full screening process and our mentoring process. Now, how much mentoring you will require? Now, let's say a mentor decides that a early stage guy, they may have to go through 12 rounds of, pitching and pivoting and, changing their plans, all that sort of thing. But if you're an advanced guy, maybe you can clear it in 4 steps. But that your mentor will have to decide. And ultimately, there's a panel of judges who will decide, because, there were repeated pitches, and I had to go for everyone because I used to carry the samosas, every time we have a pitch meet, I bring the samosas for these guys. They all want to eat samosas and bananas. So, so the advanced guys have got interested. Our next demo day will be mixture. What we really want to do is to step up either the number of companies or the frequency at which we do it. And I'm depending entirely on a volunteer force. So I can't push the guys. I'm also working pro bono. I mean, fortunately, I'm retired, so it's okay. I mean, I have nothing else to do. I just do this. So, we are trying to get around the situation of getting, more people through that funnel, So, our plans for 2019 is that we're going to have more demo days. We're going to have pitch fests and hackathons and monthly meets. Monthly meet is, what we do is most of the acquiring companies are Silicon Valley majors. I mean, like if you look at 90% of our exits are acquisitions. And who acquires them? You look at Cisco is acquiring them, Oracle is acquiring, Google, Juniper, all these companies are the acquiring companies. So what we are doing now, HP made, if you go into our website and go to demo day 1, after all the introduction hash that people like me give, you will see HP making a pitch because they were one of our sponsors. So the pitch they make is, this is our roadmap. We are looking at these technologies. These are the areas where we are interested in funding companies. And these are the areas where we would like to acquire companies. Now that's interesting because you know what, they have different companies have different formulas, but I know the Cisco formula. Cisco had a formula that if the investment within the company is under 50 million, they will not do it. They would rather buy it out. So many got the idea, they went out, built a company, sold it back to Cisco and came back. And they spin out, spin in. Right now they put a stop to it because it's kind of, it looks kind of fuzzy from an ethical point of view, but who knows? You know, I mean, whether it's right or not, because I mean, you know that the guy wants it. So all of the companies have this thing that they want to acquire or invest in, but they don't want to get into the thing entirely. Okay, so we are going to call all the corporate majors one by one for each of the monthly meets that come and give us your pitch. And after that, we'll have pizza and beer and all that sort of thing, and everybody will rumble and mix with each other. We may get a nice keynote speaker who will go and say something or the other, you know. But it's just something to sort of keep the tempo alive, you know. That's pretty much what it is. I want to do a tie-up with the research parks. I just met June today, and I met Tamaswati and Dairo in the morning, and I'm meeting the Kharagpur IIT director on 8th. That's next week. The main goal being, you know what, in course of time, some of these startups here will look for a foothold in America, in Silicon Valley. We can help them, but again, we'll drive them through the same process, you know, regardless of what they've done here. And then they can access all our connections. And our connections come not only for the financing, not only for the investors, but corporate. You want to sell something, you want to contact at Synopsys, or you want to contact at some other company, you know. Because we got 11,000 alumni, they are all in senior positions in different companies in Silicon Valley. So we have quite a bit of muscle power, so to say, over there. And as yet, again, you see, this loyalty thing you all probably don't understand here, because you know, you live, because I know when I used to conduct events there, I mean, my opening event, I had 2,500 people. Here, these guys couldn't even dream of it in India. Because here's the problem, you know. I asked a classmate of mine, hey, they're having something there in IIT-Madras. Aren't you going to go? Same old nonsense, and I meet those same old classmates of mine. There is no urge to this thing. But when we are in a foreign land, you know, the tendency to huddle is very high. In other words, you know, we are Indians, you know, let's get together, you know, that sort of thing. But because, you know, you see all these, these white guys and the Chinese and the Mexicans and all these other fellows, you know, and you say, you know, you feel sort of like you're in an alien land. So anytime, IIT get together, let's go for it, you know. So it's just like, you know, meeting place primarily because you're in a foreign land. You don't get the same draw here. And I'm telling you, we whipped every single Indian event on attendance every time. So there is no, I'm saying, if you look at our PAN IIT meets, massive attendance we used to have over there. So we're trying to also open up in other locations in the US, like Boston and Washington, New York have sent me requests. I have told them that the workshop training material you don't have to do, because we already did it and we video recorded it. Anybody in the world, it's free. You know, you can just go and see it. Okay, so we were here and that, and then we've got a lot of famous companies. Mind you, the Indian unicorns are not even listed here. All the Flipkarts, Shipkarts, and all those guys. There are many more. You know, so Chris Gopalakrishnan sent me a note saying last year in India, you all generated, IITians generated 10 unicorns. Okay, and we've got our share in the US too. So, you know, it's a major movement, you know. And well, this is my goal, you know, ultimately is to set up a world-class accelerator, you know, focus on IITians. We don't say everybody has to be an IIT. We just say one of the co-founders should be an IIT. One BITS Pilati group came to me. They had 5 guys. They said, can we join your program? I said, do you have an IIT? And he said, no. He said, no problem. We'll catch an IIT and throw him some stocks. And I said, no. I mean, a co-founder. That's not you just throw some stocks and he becomes your employee. In fact, it's sort of giving me an idea, a business idea, again, non-profit. I was just telling some guys there are a lot of IITs in Silicon Valley who want to join a startup, but they're very senior people. They want to join in a CTO role or something like that. So why don't we get these co-founders and sell them to non-IIT startups and say, there's your co-founder. If you engage this guy, then we will take you into our cohort system. How about that? We're selling IIT and IIT brains to other colleges, IISc. See, all of these guys, Bits Pilani is good, IISc is good. They're very good. They just don't have our numbers. At 11,000, they'll be very lucky if they touch even 1,000. So that being the case, I'll take questions, but if majority of you haven't seen that 60-minute program, that was the real movement program. Would you like to show that? It's a 12-minute clip. Okay, those of you who see, just be patient. You'll see what really suddenly exploded us.
The United States imports oil from Saudi Arabia, cars from Japan, TVs from Korea, and whiskey from Scotland. So what do we import from India? We import people, really smart people. And as you're about to see, the smartest, most successful, most influential Indians who've migrated to the U.S. seem to share a common credential. They're graduates of the Indian Institute of Technology, better known as IIT. Made up of 7 campuses throughout India, IIT may be the most important university you've never heard of. This is IIT Bombay. Put Harvard, MIT, and Princeton together, and you begin to get an idea of the status of this school in India.
You compute the capacity of the column.
IIT is dedicated to producing world-class chemical, electrical, and computer engineers.
And then you plug this back in and you...
With a curriculum that may be the most rigorous in the world. Just outside the campus gates, the slums, congestion, and chaos of Bombay are overwhelming. Inside, it's quiet and uncrowded, and by Indian standards, very well equipped. Getting here is the fervent dream of nearly every schoolboy. With a population of over 1 billion people in India, competition to get into the IITs is ferocious. Last year, 178,000 high school seniors took the entrance exam called the JEE. Just over 3,500 were accepted, or less than 2%. Compare that with Harvard, say, which accepts about 10% of its applicants.
The IITs probably are the hardest school in the world to get into.
In the whole world.
To the best of my knowledge.
Vinod Khosla got into IIT about 30 years ago. After graduating, he came to the U.S., co-founded Sun Microsystems, and became one of Silicon Valley's most important venture capitalists. He's one of thousands of IIT graduates who've made it big in the U.S. How significant would you say the impact of IIT graduates has been on the American technology revolution?
It's far greater than most people realize. Microsoft, Intel, PCs, Sun Microsystems, you name it. I can't imagine a major area where Indian IIT engineers haven't played a leading role.
Leading role?
A leading role, and of course the American consumer in the American business, in the end, is the beneficiary of that.
It isn't just high tech. The head of the giant consulting firm McKinsey & Company is an IIT grad. So is the vice chairman of Citigroup and the former CEO of U.S. Airways. Fortune 500 headhunters are always on the lookout for that IIT degree.
That they are favored over almost anybody else. If you're a WASP walking in for a job, you wouldn't have as much pre-assigned credibility as you do if you're an engineer from IIT.
90% of IIT students are male, and the young men we met in Bombay know they're hot commodities. The American companies love the kids from IIT.
Thank goodness.
That's what we've heard. That's what we've heard too. After I leave IIT Bombay, I hope to get a good job.
So it can be a ticket to another way of life.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And a ticket out of India. How many of you think that you're going to end up in the United States?
For a while, I think all of us would be there. Maybe
At
for
some
work.
stage.
At some stage.
That's not the way it was supposed to be.
I want my country to be strong.
Nehru, India's first prime minister, created IIT 50 years ago, just after independence, to train the scientists and engineers he knew the nation would need to move from medieval to modern. He never imagined India would be supplying brain power to the whole world. Would you say that IIT graduates are India's most valuable export?
Yes, undoubtedly.
N. Ram, one of India's leading journalists, says that because the stakes are so high, a kid starts preparing early.
Age 7, 8, 10. By the 10, you know whether you're made for it or not.
This is the truth or not?
And at least half of these 10-year-olds told us they think they're made for it.
Necessary thing, not food. Yes,
But just standing out in school won't be enough.
Two valences to the other.
At about 16, they enroll in a prep class where they're drilled for the IIT entrance exam. There are even pre-dawn tutoring classes.
4:30 to about 8, they're grilled, and then they go to school,
Regular school.
regular school.
4:30 to 8 a.m.
Yes.
Are you saying they do that every day?
Yes, every day for that period.
2
Particularly
years.
2 years. Classes 11 and 12, you do nothing but study.
And parents hover and push and fret.
I normally stay up all night and study for my exams. So during this preparation, my mother never used to let me prepare my own cup of tea.
So if you stayed up all night, she stayed up all
used
night to make your
stay up
tea?
with me, yeah.
After years of preparation, the day they and their families believe will make or break the future finally arrives.
On the day of the exam, my dad, my mom, and my younger brother, they all accompanied me to the center. I said, okay, now you can leave. I'll come home on my own. But I was literally amazed when I came back out of the center and see my parents and brother still waiting for me outside the center.
How many hours?
It was close to 6 hours.
6 hours of testing, then an excruciating month-long wait for the results.
They put them up on the web and you can call them
You
up,
can call them.
and after 10 days you get a letter. So
But it's on the web so everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never get your marks.
You just
Nobody
get your
knows.
all India rank.
You just get your rank.
Rank, so you first, second, third in the country.
Right.
Yeah. So it goes from
So
1 to
everybody
1 to
knows.
3,000 roughly.
So if you were 2,999, everybody knows.
Everybody knows, and you're considered really lucky.
The top rankers get their photographs in the paper and all. So
The high ranks,
the high
Yeah,
ranks.
he's one of
of
them.
course. You were one of them?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah.
What number?
I was 196.
Did you get your picture in the paper?
Oh, yeah.
The ranking isn't just an ego trip. The top kids get to choose which campus they want and which major.
It's a big deal in India. It is.
Narayana Murthy, founder of the huge software company Infosys, is known as the Bill Gates of India.
It's very easy to lose hope in this country. It's very easy to set your aspirations low in this country. But amidst all this competition among high-quality students, this institution of IIT sets your aspirations much higher.
Now, what about your own son?
Well, my son, he probably wanted to do computer science at IIT. To do computer science at IIT, you have to be in top 200. And he couldn't do that, so he went to Cornell instead.
Think about that for a minute. A kid from India using an Ivy League university as a safety school. That's how smart these guys are.
I do know cases where students who couldn't get into computer science at IITs, they have gotten scholarship at MIT, at Princeton, at Caltech. Yes, sure.
You wouldn't mistake this for MIT or Caltech. It's the final exam of metal fabrication class required for every IIT freshman. Call it shop class on steroids. Using just a saw and a file, students have to cut quarter-inch steel into an assigned shape, measured to the millimeter. It's an illustration of IIT's emphasis on engineering basics, precision, and discipline. Nobody majors in music at IIT. The education is not well-rounded. But in science and technology, IIT undergraduates leave their American counterparts in the dust.
When I finished IIT Delhi and went to Carnegie Mellon for my master's, I thought I was cruising all the way through Carnegie Mellon because it was so easy relative to the education I had gotten at IIT Delhi.
If you think of engineering students as nerds, not particularly bold or creative, IIT somehow breaks the mold. It turns computer geeks into risk takers and leaders. I'm wondering why so many IIT graduates are entrepreneurs. Why so many do start their own companies.
I think it's because of the confidence. We are lucky enough to be told by people around us that we're good and that we have a bright future, and that gives us a lot of confidence.
There's something else. Students act like entrepreneurs the whole time they're at IIT. They run everything in the dorms, which might be mistaken for cell blocks if not for all the Pentium 4 PCs. They organize the sports themselves. They even hire the chefs and pick the food in the mess halls. And unlike so many other institutions in India, they all know they're here because they deserve to be here. Can you slip somebody a couple of rupees and say, come on, get my son in?
No, never.
Impossible?
Impossible. There is no corruption. It's a pure meritocracy.
IIT may also be one of the best educational bargains in the world. It costs a family just about $700 a year for room, board, and tuition. That's less than 20% of the true cost. The Indian government subsidizes all the rest. While some IIT grads stay and have helped build India's flourishing high-tech sector, almost 2/3, up to 2,000 people leave every year, most for the U.S.
Some people would say you're subsidizing factories which produce largely for the higher end of the American employment market.
So there's this debate here that says, why are we spending so much money to educate these brilliant young men who just leave?
You don't have to be crudely nationalistic to raise this question. There's a need here, there's a demand here, and these guys are simply not available.
How many of them ever come back?
Very small percentage. But my view is that we also have to work harder here to make it attractive for them to come back.
Murthy is doing his part. His software company, Infosys, hires about 150 IIT graduates every year to stay and work in India. He says the brain drain doesn't worry him.
Sure, Nehru wanted all these young men and women to contribute to the success of India, and they are contributing to the success of India in some way, because today the respect for the Indian professional is much higher in the United States than what it was in the 50s.
But does that translate into investment money coming into India?
Some of these people who have reached the higher echelons in the corporate world in the US, they have persuaded their corporations to start operations in India, whether it's Texas Instruments, whether it's General Electric, whether it's Citibank.
So it does mean investment back here?
Oh yes, it does mean.
I have no question that India now is benefiting significantly from the cycling of knowledge, the back and forth, no question about it.
And individual IIT grads are sending lots of money back home too. But the U.S. still gets the better end of the bargain.
How many jobs have entrepreneurs, Indian entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley created over the last 15, 20 years? Hundreds of thousands, I would guess.
For this society?
For this society here in America. For America to be able to pick off this human capital, these well-trained engineers with great minds, is a great deal.
This was our inauguration event for IIT Startups. So this one was, there's Umang Gupta and Vinod Khoshla. That's me over there. Then there were three unicorns year before last. That is, this is Dheeraj Pandey, Nutanix. This is Bipul Sinha, Rubrics. This other guy, Jyoti Bansal, was supposed to come, but he had a bereavement in the family that they couldn't come. This is Ravi Matre of Lightspeed Ventures. He funded most of the unicorns. So he's given us a lot of money. I mean, IIT Startups. He's one of our major sponsors. That gives you a say. Well, we had over 400 people who attended that inauguration event, and this is our demo day. You can see Vijay Udal here, and that's our demo day. We pull about 300 guys, lots of 50, 60 VCs, corporate ventures, all these guys over there. And this company, CarStyle, is based here in Research Park. This is something Opaka, and this is, I forget the names. But they are based out of, they came from the IIT. So some of these startups have bases in different research parks at the various IITs. Okay, questions, anybody? Now with the mic.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for coming out here. And I'm Srinath. I'm currently in my 4th year of undergrad from bioengineering. There is one question that came to my mind after seeing that video and after your talk. Have you ever considered starting such an accelerator in India?
You know, I have a bandwidth limitation. I told you my age. And because I'm very well connected in Silicon Valley, in fact, when I started PAN IIT in 2003, the guys here were howling. I mean, from Bangalore, and said, why didn't you start PAN IIT in India first? Well, India didn't have it. I said, I live there. That's my own backyard. Why wouldn't I do it where I am present? So naturally, I do it here. Yes, we would like people to do it here, but let's say right now I have demands from Boston, New York, and Washington. And I said, guys, find a champion. We will coach them how to coach the others. We can do that here also. But keep in mind, whatever I may have said or whatever you see in our library videos is conditioned for Silicon Valley. You've got to apply a factor of modification or whatever, because the culture in India is quite different. Okay, the investment soft spot. I mean, how do you trigger an interest in a VC? That can be very different here in India than it is in America. I know some of the cross-border VCs like Naren Gupta and these fellows who invested in, but I noticed that they tend to invest in more service-oriented companies or companies that are offering like a portal service or something, you know. But when it comes to hardcore product, which is a very high-risk game, they tend to be cautious here. Also, in terms of the market, because now this is a bigger market to be in a sense. You know, if you go lower down, you go to products in the villages and all that. It's a lower market, but it's a very big market. The US, population-wise, is not. Affordability-wise, it's higher. So again, you know, I got to sell a lower volume of this thing. But again, the US-based companies are looking at the whole world. Now, when Professor Jhunjhunwala and Bhaskar invited me to become a member of the IIT Madras Research Park, and my job was to be a brand ambassador for IIT Madras in Silicon Valley. Then I found none of the startups are coming to me. Why are they not coming? Because they were all inward focused. They were looking at the Indian market. Nothing wrong with that. They were doing the right thing. And I was, you know, harboring this big make company, and then I shoved them into the US system and all that sort of thing. That didn't happen. Well, frankly, I mean, I was with the research park for 4 years. I was thrown out last year in November when I crossed the age of 70. You know, at 70, that's the terminal point. Who does that? That's what I'm saying. This is a great market, but verbatim, you cannot apply our solutions to the Indian market. You need to have Indian mentors. The mentors must be Indian because they feel the pulse of it. It's quite different. Yeah. Next. Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't mention that most IITians lack those business skills that are required to get the startup to certain success. But you also mentioned that IIMs...
Not everybody.
Not everyone.
Most.
Yeah, most. So you also mentioned that IIMs have that upper hand in the business aspect. So is the difference in terms of courses we learn? Or?
No. Let me tell you something. It's a mindset. They are coming from a business background and you're coming from a technology background. What you need is a team with combination. By the way, most VCs are very gun-shy of dealing with a startup that has got one founder. The one founder falls under the bus, his investment is gone dead. They like 2 or more founders, and typically the founders complement each other. So if there is a guy who's a deep techie CTO, he has with him somebody who understands the market. So I'm just saying, let's say maybe that's your IIM guy. May not be. It could be an IIT guy who has done around before, or a IIT guy like me who hates technology and I prefer to do marketing. I prefer to sell. So it depends on what you're going to do. You need a team that complements each other, so that the overall output is success, which is what the VC wants. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rohit.
So I just wanted to understand that how could one of us get a foothold in US in the Valley?
Yeah, okay. If you want a foothold, I'm not talking about US. If you want a foothold in Silicon Valley, you need to get a partner there, a co-founder, IIT, and we can help you get that. And once we feel there is adequate inertia of your startup there, we can take him into one of our cohorts and course the guy through various rounds. And there have been, I'm just telling you that company I showed, those two, they've done that. They've got their setup right here in IIT-Madras Research Park, but they are there in the US, physically present. So we feel confident that, hey, you know what, these guys understand the US market. Because understanding the market, you need to be there. You can't sit here and then it becomes conjecture knowledge over the internet or whatever you got. Okay, I think it's like this, So it depends. And also, it also depends on, are you targeting a B2B market, a B2C market, Because in B2C, you really got to be understanding the consumer at a very wide level. B2B, you might get it. Because, some of the B2B solutions may be made here, exported there, it works.
So I have a friend over there, but he's like more, worried about his visa and stuff, so he won't want to consider this idea at all.
Yeah, let me put it this way. A person who's on an H visa, there is no straight way that he can be a co-founder. I'll tell you why. An H visa is linked to an employer. So if he's linked to an employer and he's trying to do a startup also on his own on the side, the first thing an investor will ask is, so the IP belongs to you or does it belong to your employer? Because after all, it's work to hire. Your employer can claim that anything that you did in the 24 hours of work belongs to him. So the VC is feeling apprehensive that, hey, you know what, this guy might claim the thing back. It's not only that. Look, even from the universities, anybody coming out of Stanford, okay, if they want to do a startup, the investor always asks them, have you got a clearance from Stanford? We want a clear letter saying they got that. Now, let's say Google. Google pays huge royalties to Stanford because Sergey Brin and Larry Page were students there. And in fact, they were students of an IIT Kanpur guy, the late Rajiv Makwane. Okay? So that problem is there with the visa, because this question was posed to us, and I asked a number of lawyers. They said, oh yeah, we can do it like this. I said, no, I want a straightforward way, because I am now standing as the head of the IIT Startups. This thing, I can't go and say, hey, there are cockeyed ways of getting around this. No, that's not for me. I can't do it. So we're trying to build a name. So that shortcut method, we will never recommend to anybody. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, so my question is, so what if right now we are not looking for the VC route or funding route, but maybe we are looking for business or clients, customers, and we need connections there. So does the current process help us in that manner?
No. We do not help anybody who is not a part of our cohort system.
Okay.
It does not mean anybody who's a part of our cohort system necessarily goes for funding. We always encourage people to delay funding as much as possible.
Okay.
There are so many ways of funding. You get your customers to pay for it. If you can get a very clear-cut contract made with your customer, whereby you own the IP. I sold a company a few years ago. I was an investor in. Now, in every proposal that we made, we would tell the guys, we will do this work for you using our framework. Now, the sales guy or the buyer, he was not a legal guy. He didn't understand the implications of that. We wanted to sell that company. So they didn't realize that. But later on, when the VCs asked us that, do you have protection against all these companies for whom you did the work and customized it. I said, see this clause here? He said, man, you guys are real cookie fellows. How did you think of this? I said, you know why? Because we knew that this contract was so simple, it wouldn't go to the legal department. So the guy said, okay, fine, that sort of thing. And we managed to sell the company without any worry that the IP thing would come to haunt us.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I agree that, I mean, the current system that is in place, it will help us, let's say, if we want to get into the US market, and the ecosystem there will help us get to know about the system first, get to know about the market there first. Now, what all help or assistance does this cohort provide for if we are coming with the intention of just doing business there?
No, if you're coming with the intention of just doing business, first of all, I would say that what's your understanding of the US market? I would have no confidence in it. If you've been sitting in India all these years, or let's say I decide to come to India and sell something, would anybody have confidence in me? No.
Right.
I don't know this market. I know once upon a time I had invested in a gaming outfit. But because my investment was in a slightly different realm. I mean, I was looking at a conversion market. That's why I put my money. I understood nothing about games. I mean, why people play games even I was at a loss to understand that. So, but they were saying, oh, can you make a cricket game? A cricket game. So, I mean, there were people who had put money, they were based in India, they understood this market. Similarly, if your team doesn't understand that market, okay, then you're not a viable business proposition. We want to generate success. You know, you come there to market and you're a flop and we wasted our time and, you know, we got a flop on our hands. Why would we spend money on that? I mean, I'm just saying, even our screening process is so strict, okay, because we want success. Because at the end of the day, I say, you know what, 100 companies went through us, 40 of them succeeded, 20 of them became unicorns. You know, that's my metrics for success, because I want to show that after a few years, hey, this is my scorecard. You know, so everybody take us seriously. Get a partner there. There's a way around it. Get a partner in the US, you know, somebody, friend of yours, whatever, you know, that. And once you are able to convince that guy that, hey, look, this is what I've got, and we could do something with it. And if he's convinced, you know what, he'll become your arm out there.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. You mentioned that if you want to, if an Indian company wants to take advantage of this, first find a US partner, right? Find a US partner, then apply for the cohort.
Not a US partner. I'm talking about get a co-founder who's
based in the US.
Who's based there.
Okay. The question I have is that since they also may not be aware of who's there and who is willing to do this, do you have a kind of a PAN
IIT-Madras has one, IITM-BA.
No, a set of people who are willing to spend time and become a co-founder, or are they looking for opportunities?
There are guys who are looking for co-founder. Yeah, okay. I told you I'm trying to sell one co-founder to Bits Pilani.
Okay, so the companies here can get in touch with you. Do you provide that matchmaking?
As yet, it's a little early for me.
Okay.
That is our intention.
Okay.
One of our board members in the last board meeting said, you know, we need to provide this. I said, yes, I do recognize that, but I need a database of all the IITs.
Yes.
And right now it's a little political because each IIT doesn't want to share with the other IIT who their members are. They don't understand today with the power of LinkedIn. I can scan everything. According to LinkedIn, by the way, it's very funny. If I put IIT, Bay Area, I find there are about 11,000 plus companies. If I put Indian Institute of Technology, Bay Area, I find 20,000. I don't know why that big swing takes place, but today, I mean, all these presidents of respective IITs are huddling with their database. Oh, it's my precious property. What precious property? Today, we are in the age of social media. Everybody knows everything. I mean, you can get in touch with, I mean, right now, I think ever since this course was announced, my talk was announced, I've got a flood of requests coming into me that can I be your LinkedIn friend or whatever. I mean, I said, yeah. I mean, if anybody's got IIT there, I accept. That's it. If it's not IIT, then I look at what's the guy done of relevance to my field of work.
So that will be useful, you know, once you're able to do this.
Well, I'm saying if you have a fixed need, in IIT Madras I can post it.
Okay.
Then I have to request my other guys and other IITs that, it's a bit of a mess, but we that's something we need to straighten out in the course of the next few months. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Every time I'm about to stop it, one more. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Monishi. Could we have a nice round of applause, please? And we do look forward to leveraging the muscle power that you're building there, Monishi, and hopefully in the US and hopefully here as well. And our startups will be able to kind of connect to you and understand how best to kind of leverage this network.
At IIT-Startups.org. Okay.
So for any questions, please do reach out to him. And thank you so much for spending an hour in the evening today, with all of us. Thank you so much.